to the entertainment Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Just want everybody to know I'm going to be live tonight around 8:45. In addition to that, I'll try to have another video up around 5. We'll see if I could get to it. But the video that I definitely wanted to do today is a topic that is often discussed on my channel. Which way should the New York Giants use Evan Engram? Because he is a bit of an enigma. Of course, the big knock on Evan Engram is his injury history. It's why a lot of Giants fans have been outspoken and said that, they would trade him if the right deal presented itself. He has missed 14 games over his first 48 contests, and there's no doubting it, no denying it. He's had a ton of injuries. We'll go over the list of injuries, but a lot of people have suggested to move Evan Engram predominantly to a wide receiver, being that he wouldn't have to take all the bumps and bruises when you're a tight end, being asked to block more, things of that nature. He could also be used as an H-back. In this video, if you are not aware, I will get into exactly what an H-back is. Engram has been used in that role in some capacity. Of course, he's been used predominantly as a tight end. Now, why do people think he could move out to the wide receiver? Well, it's obvious. His athletic ability. He's very similar to a guy like Claypool. Claypool out of Notre Dame. He's around the same height, the same weight. I think Claypool's 6'4", 240. Engram is 6'3", 240. And they both had a very similar 40 time. So Evan Engram, some people think, may be able to move to the outside full time. Now, the questions that people have with that. Is he, does he have the route running ability to be a wide receiver full time? The other thing, obviously, as a tight end, he is a huge mismatch problem. If he were to move to the outside full time, he wouldn't be nearly as big of a mismatch, There are definitely a lot of wide receivers that could run a 4'4", 240. Now, not most of them are 240 pounds, so we'd certainly have an advantage there. But when he's lined up in the slot as a tight end, he presents a big mismatch. But, of course, the benefit to that from the people that think he should move to wide receiver would be that it would cut down on injuries, something that has been a huge problem for Evan Engram. Another tight end who had a lot of injury problems throughout the course of his career had a very similar build to Engram, but the difference was Jordan Reed did not possess near the athletic ability. Reed ran a 4'7", 240 on his pro day or combine, and Engram went a 4.42. Engram is a much better athlete, but Reed was a similar build. He was 6'2", 240 pounds. Engram is 6'3", 240 pounds. And when you look at the landscape of most tight ends in the league, most of them are bigger bodies, so they could take more of a pounding. The average tight end's weight is 254 pounds, and when you look at some of the tight ends in the league, they're all around the same height and weight. George Kittle is 250 pounds. O.J. Howard, 6'6", 251. Austin Hooper, 6'4", 254. Jared Cook, 6'5", 254. Kyle Rudolph, 6'6", 265. Ebron's 253. Ertz is 250. Kelsey is 6'5", 260. And Hunter Henry is 6'5", 250. Engram is, a good 10 to 15 pounds, if not more, lighter than all of those players. But the thing with him is he's kind of a tweener. He's, a little too big to be the traditional wide receiver. If you look at some big-bodied wide receivers like Julio Jones, for example, he's 6'3", 220. Kelvin Benjamin is an example of a guy that is a similar height and a similar weight. Of course, Kelvin Benjamin was not in near the same physical shape of a guy like Engram. But the point goes back to, can he run the routes? Because I would think if he was an elite route runner, he would have been a wide receiver from the start. And if you go back and look at what they said, about him in college, yes, his route running ability was advanced for a tight end, but they didn't necessarily think he could transfer full-time to being a wide receiver, which opens up the possibility of being an H-back. Now, before I get into talking about what an H-back is, obviously, as an H-back, you're going to take a pounding as well. Now, it definitely allows you to be more flexible. It adds another intricacy to the offense, and that's something that I'm really excited about with the New York Giants and Evan Engram, being that I think he's going to remain on the team. We talk about versatility with the defense all the time. What about the offense? This is the most versatile player on this team, and I would think Joe Judge would see an opportunity to really use this guy in a lot of creative ways, being that you can line him up on the outside, on the slot, at the tight end, at the H-back. The question is, do you try to, line him up more on the outside? Maybe he's not a full-time wide receiver, but line him up more on the outside to limit the injuries, because he has had a load of them over the course of his career. When you look at the injury history of Evan Engram, in 2017, he had a chest rib bruise. He had a concussion. And then in 2018, he had another concussion. He had a hamstring pull. He had a knee MCL sprain. And then last year, he had another concussion, a knee injury, and a hamstring injury. So he's been banged up over the course of his 3 years in the NFL. And a lot of people point to the fact that they think that Evan Engram is playing out of position and that the Giants should line him up on the outside. Here's what they had to say about him when he was coming out of college and his athletic ability. No tight end tops Evan Engram's 4.42 40-yard dash at the scouting combine, and just 4 wide receivers bested that number. John Ross, Curtis Samuel, Josh Malone, and KD Cannon, all of whom come with the reputation of being explosive, game-breaking players. Ingram's speed and explosiveness are hard to find, regardless of where he lines up or whether he's a linebacker, safety, or even cornerback draws the assignment. And obviously he's a bigger mismatch going up against linebackers, but the way that the NFL is starting to, evolve, I think you're going to see more linebackers like Isaiah Simmons that are going to be able to at least, put up a good fight against a player like Evan Engram and his athletic ability, which leads you to believe maybe he is best suited on the outside long term. We'll have to see as the NFL continues to evolve. Here is an illustration of what the H-back is, and it's used a lot in 2 tight end sets. You see it a lot more in college, but you do see this with the Chiefs. You see them get creative with Kelsey from time to time. You see it with the Giants. I'll get into an illustration. But here, like I said, it allows you to get more creative. It allows you to do more things. It also allows them to get more of a push rather than getting that initial blocker off the line of scrimmage, going up against the defensive end. And like I said, you could use them in a variety of ways. You could also motion them out wide, left or right. Here is an illustration of Evan Engram in this formation, and in this play, as I watched it, Evan Engram was actually used as a blocker, as they show in the illustration, to get to the second level to block Sean Lee. I think that is in that picture, to be the lead blocker for Saquon Barkley. We all know that Evan Engram's biggest strength, however, is not as a blocker. But I do think it'll be interesting to see how the New York Giants implement Evan Engram in this offense. I do think you'll see him somewhat at the H-back. I think you'll see him somewhat at the tight end. And I do think you'll see him lined up, on the outside, whether it's wide left or wide right. I don't think he has the route running ability to be a full-time wide receiver, but maybe they could use him more in that capacity to prolong his career and make sure that he doesn't miss 4, 5, 6 games every year. This is another illustration. Just wanted to show you guys of how the H-back is used in college. Very similar to the last illustration. It was actually with Penn State with Saquon Barkley, where they were using a tight end in that set. And then finally, this is talking about the H-back in general and how it could be a pro to use Evan Engram more in that role. I found this in an article a couple of years ago, actually, when they were talking about potentially moving Evan Engram to that role. In conclusion, there are many benefits to taking a threat like Evan Engram and moving a large percentage of his snaps to the backfield as an H-back. This position harnesses the positive traits of athleticism, long speed, length, and ability to improve. It maximizes his weaknesses from part 1 of this edition, which obviously I've talked about the weaknesses throughout this video, his route running ability, his ability to block, things of that nature, which include play strength, short area burst, and refined route running. This backfield position would be an additive to Shurmur's offensive playbook, of which the goal is to stretch a defense vertically and horizontally. Well, the Giants are looking to stretch defenses vertically with the new Garrett offense. Engram would not only widen the range of ways to do that, but it would also open up avenues to put many different players in conflict. The H-back is being utilized at the forefront of offensive innovation in the Big 12. The Giants have a chance to utilize a tweener's traits and skill sets with little risk. Sometimes the best answers for an offense are already on the roster. You just have to get them on the carousel. And that's something that Joe Judge has talked about time and time and time again. He wants to get the most out of the players that he currently has on the roster. And this may be the best avenue to do so with a player like Evan Engram. I do not view him as an every down tight end. I talked about Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed, he was hurt every single year, and he has a very similar build to a player like Evan Engram. You look at most of the tight ends I ran down, they all were 250 or bigger, and they were all at least 6'5". Engram is 6'3", much like Jordan Reed being 6'2", and they're both around 240 pounds. As a matter of fact, Evan Engram in college was actually like 225, I think, up until his last season. It's a weird position because it is a tweener, much like Isaiah Simmons. A lot of people say that Isaiah Simmons might not be able to take the pounding of a traditional linebacker, which is why the Giants or whoever may draft him may use him in a different capacity than your traditional linebacker. And I think the Giants need to think about getting creative with a player like Evan Engram if he remains on the roster long term. Nobody denies his great playmaking ability. I mean, we saw it in the Bucs game last year. We've seen it time and time again. He definitely stretches a defense, and he definitely makes big plays. The Giants have to figure out a way to utilize his playmaking ability, but keep him on the field. When you have the amount of injuries, I mean, what did I list? 10 injuries over his first 3 years? That's not sustainable, and the Giants have to get creative. And if there's a coach that would do that, I would think it would be Joe Judge. And to me, the most interesting prospect on this year's offense and how he's utilized is both Saquon Barkley and Evan Engram. I think both of them are incredibly versatile, and it'll be interesting to see how the New York Giants draw up a game plan with this talented tight end / Hback / wide receiver. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.